In this video I'm going to show you how to make this motif, which I haven't thought of a name yet for. I'm using Crochet Deluxe cotton, which is a 4-ply, and then a Mohair lace, which is a 2-ply, which I'm going to be holding double. So I love these Crochet Deluxe yarns because they're have an eco-conscious, and also they do the mohair and the cotton in matching colours, which is great for creating these beautiful textured granny squares. So in this video I'm just going to cover making the actual motif. There will be another video for the joins, and also videos for partial motifs and continuous join, so you could make all the middle sections and then join everything all in one go. So I'm using this 4-ply yarn and a 3mm hook, which is roughly an E hook in US sizes. I'm going to be using American crochet terminology. I will be throwing in the British equivalent occasionally as well. So we're going to start off with a slip knot loop on our hook, and then we're going to chain 4. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch into the first chain to form a ring. Then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to double crochet into the ring, so that's a UK treble. Next we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to make a double crochet petal, which is basically a double crochet 2 together, but you're working it into the ring. So I'll go over that now. We're going to yarn over into the ring, pull up a loop, you've got 3, yarn over, draw off 2. Now you're going to yarn over again, and you're going back into the ring. You're going to pull up a loop, you've got 4. You're going to yarn over, draw off 2 loops, you've got 3. Then you're going to yarn over and draw off all 3 loops on the hook. So what that creates is this kind of slender petal. You've got 2 double crochets, or 2 UK trebles, that are both finished off at the same time at the top. Each one of these is separated by a chain 2. Then we're going to make another petal. So yarn over into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2. Yarn over again, back into the ring, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2. Yarn over, draw off all 3 loops. That's our third petal made, chain 2. So we're going to go ahead with these double crochet petals until we have a total of 8. That's 8, and then don't forget to do the final chain 2, and then you're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of this first petal. Then you're going to cut the yarn and fasten up. So at the end of round 1 you should have 8 petals and 8 chain 2 spaces. So let's do round 2. I'm using the Kid Silk Mohair 2-ply, which is a lace weight, and I've got it held double, and that's easiest to do if you just get 2 separate balls. If you've only got 1 ball, I would wind off half of it so that you've got 2 balls. I would not recommend working from both ends of the ball at once. You will get into a terrible mess. Okay, let us join this yarn into a petal, any petal, but I would recommend avoiding this very first one where you've finished off. So I always tend to just move one along, to be honest. So I'm holding the yarn at the back with a tail long enough to sew in later, and I'm pulling up a loop. I'm chaining 1, and then I'm going to single crochet into that same space, and I'm just going to catch that tail at the same time. Next up, I'm going to be working into this chain 2 space. So I'm going to single crochet, which is a UK double. Then I'm going to make another single crochet, or UK double. Then I'm going to chain 3. Then I'm going to make a picot by slip stitching into that last single crochet I just made. The only thing is I'm coming at it in a different way than normal. So I'm coming from the back here. So you get your hook to the back of the work and you go back loop, front loop, and then you slip stitch. And that makes a beautiful picot. And then you're going to put another single crochet back into that chain 2 space. So don't worry if you didn't get that, I will go over it again in a minute. Then we're going to put 1 single crochet into the top of the next petal, and into the next chain 2 space we've got it nice and easy. We're just putting 3 singles, which is 3 UK doubles. Coming back to another petal, and again nice and easy, just 1 in there. So again, in this next chain 2 space we're also putting 3 stitches, except the middle one is going to have a picot, chain 3 picot. So 1 single crochet into the next chain 2 space, 2 single crochets into the next chain 2 space, chain 3, and then coming from behind, going back loop, front loop, like this. Make sure the chain is kind of to the back, and the working yarn, you can kind of pull it to the front a little bit with your finger. You want the working yarn at the front. You are going to grab that yarn and put it through the live loop on your hook. Live loop on your hook, which is basically a slip stitch, and then you're going to single crochet again into that same chain 2 space. You end up with another picot. Top of the petal, 1 single crochet or 1 UK double. Next chain 2 space, 3 singles, 1, 2, 3. Top of next petal, 1 single. Into the next chain 2 space we need to make a picot, 1, 2, chain 3, slip stitch from back to front into the last stitch made, and then single crochet back into that space. Next up, single crochet in the top of the petal, 3 single crochet into the next chain 2 space, single crochet into the top of the next petal, into the next chain 2 space. We want another 2 singles, chain 3, slip stitch from back to front in the second last single crochet just made, 1 single back in that same space. In the top of the next petal we're going to put 1 single. I'm going to crochet in the tail as I go. Into the next petal we're going to put 3, and again I'm just going to crochet over the top of that tail. That will save me a little bit of work later. I'll only have to sew it back in one way. And then we are going to slip stitch into the top of that very first single crochet that we made. So should have something looks like this. In total you should have 32 single crochets, but no one's going to count that. Important thing is you've got 4 chain 3 picots, so it almost gives it like a little square shape, and then alternating in every chain 2 space you've got 3 singles. We are now ready to do round 3. We're going to chain 1, then we're going to single crochet back into the same spot where we did the slip stitch join of the previous round. Then we're going to chain 10. So we want to have quite a neat chain. If you chain loosely you might want to switch to a chain 9, but we want to try and keep that relatively neat. Next up you are going to skip a single, skip the picot, skip another single, and basically single crochet into the single crochet that you put into the top of that petal, like that. So you've got a chain 10 that's jumping over the top of that picot. Then you're going to chain 4. Again, try and keep the chains nice and neat, and you're going to jump, you're going to skip 1, 2, 3 single crochets and single crochet into the next single crochet, which should be the one that you put in the top of the next petal. And you can probably guess what comes next. It is another chain 9, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, sorry, chain 10 or chain 9 if you have very sloppy chains or loose chains. And then again you're going to skip single crochet, the picot, single crochet, and you're going to single crochet into the next single crochet, which should be in the top of that petal. Chain 4, skip 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, single crochet into the top, into the next single crochet, which should align with that petal. So that's the sequence. Pretty straightforward. I'm going to carry on and I'll meet you back when I'm ready to finish off this round. So I've made the 4th chain 9 and now I'm ready to do the 4th chain 4 space, but we're going to do something slightly different here, because what we want to do is we want to actually finish in the middle of one of these chain 4 loops. So right at the last chain 4 you're going to do a bit different, so don't worry if you don't understand, just follow the process and you will get the correct result. You're going to chain 2. You're then going to put a double crochet into the first single crochet you made of the round, which is 1 UK treble. So yarn over into that first single, put up a loop, yarn over, draw off 2, yarn over, draw off 2. So again, you need to keep that double quite neat and tidy. If your double crochet is too long and sloppy, then it might not look right. So sometimes you need a couple of attempts to get it right. What you're aiming for is we're trying to mimic one of these chain 4 spaces, but we want to be finishing right at the top of that chain 4 as we're doing here. So that double crochet, at first glance you don't really notice it, it's just pretending to be a chain 2 on the left hand side of this little arch. So at the end of this round you should have 4 chain 10 spaces and 4 chain 4 spaces. We're now going to do round 4. So we're going to chain 1, and in this chain 4 space that we made here I'm going to put a single. Now we're going to make some puff stitches, which in mohair I like to call a fluffy puff stitch. So you're going to yarn over, you're going to go into this chain 10 space and you're going to pull up a loop. In this loop you want to pull it up nice and long, so it's about the same length as a double crochet or a UK treble. Then you're going to yarn over again, you're going to go back into that space and you're going to pull up another loop, and you're going to pull it up until it matches the first loop that you made. Then you're going to yarn over and you're going to draw off all the loops on the hook. So that is one puff stitch. I'm going to put a total of 5 in there, so let's do another 4. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, pull that loop up nice and high, yarn over again, back into the space, pull up another loop, pull it up nice and high, yarn over, draw off all the loops. Puff stitch number 2 done. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop, yarn over into the space, pull up another loop, yarn over, draw off all the loops. That's the third one done. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop nice and long, yarn over into the space, pull up another loop to match, yarn over, draw them all off. That is the 4th one done. Yarn over into the space, pull up a loop nice and long, yarn over into the space, pull up another loop nice and long, yarn over, draw them all off. That is the 5th one made. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do another 5 puff stitch into this exact same space. Once you've made that first one, that's kind of sets the guide for the height of the stitches really. That's 3, that's 4, that's 5. into the chain 4 space we are going to put a single crochet. So if you have a quick look at this, I would say this is like a petal really that we're creating here. You've got 5 puff stitches, chain 3, 5 puff stitches, single crochet into the chain 4 space, and then away we go with another set of 5 puff stitches into this next chain 10 space, lost track of what I was doing then. You do have to concentrate when you're doing these puff stitches because there's a lot of yarn overs, and also something to be aware of is the top of the stitch falls really far over to the right, a bit like a half double actually. So sometimes when you're counting them you can think you've maybe not done it, you might only think you've done 3 here, but actually you've done 4, because the first puff stitch is here, and if we follow it along, the top of the stitch is there, whereas we might actually by glancing just read that as the top of the stitch. So if you're doing the clusters, it's better actually to count the clusters 1, 2, 3, 4, or be super aware that the top of the stitch is falling really far to the right. And then a chain 3 at the tip of the petal, and then another 5 puff stitches. And the good thing about these puff stitches with this kind of yarn, i.e. kid silk mohair that can be very sticky and difficult to frog, is that unfortunately crocheting with this kind of yarn, because we're sort of doing a lot of knotting so to speak, it can make mohair extremely difficult to frog with. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these kind of this puff stitch is actually quite a good stitch for crochet because it doesn't tend to you know, sort of mat together as much. So if you do need to frog, this is a tad easier than a sort of standard stitch. Okay, into the chain 4 space we are going to single crochet. So that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to carry on doing the last 2 petals, and I'll meet you back when I'm ready to finish this round. So I've just finished the last set of puff stitches in this last chain 10 space. So it's a nice easy round to finish, easy way to finish. We are literally just going to slip stitch into that very first single crochet that we made. Slip stitch, cut the yarn and pull through to fasten off. So if you're making lots of these and joining them together, you can either join in the 5th round, so make each, you know, you can make every time you do a 5th round and you finish one of these, you can join it to the next motif. Or if you're a fan of the continuous join, which I am, you can make all of these central bits first and then join all your other motifs in one go, as I've done with this one. So this all 9 of these motifs have just been joined in a continuous sequence. So that will be available for a very small price in my Ko-fi store, and also Ravelry and Lovecraft store. You can get that, plus it will also include a partial motif, which is really handy. So we'll have a triangular half motif and a rectangular half motif, which is really useful if you're making more complicated garments. So for round 5 we are going to switch back to the cotton. We're going to join in any of these chain 3 spaces. It doesn't really matter which one. So we're going to put the hook in the chain 3 space. We are going to hold the cotton at the back with a tail long enough to sew in later. We're going to pull up a loop. We're going to chain 1, we're going to single crochet in that same space, then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, I've done 4, and then we're going to single crochet back into the chain 3 space. Then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to put 1 single crochet into the third stitch of these puff stitches. So it's basically the middle out of the 5. So the only thing you've got to watch out for here is to remember that the top of the stitch falls really far to the right hand side. So actually I find it easier to count from this single crochet here. So obviously we've got 5 stitches, so the third stitch is going to be the same stitch whether you count from the left or the right, because that is the middle stitch. So I'm going to count from the single crochet. That's the single crochet, that's the top of the single crochet, which means that 1, 2, 3, that is my third stitch, and I'm going to single crochet into there. So after a while you'll probably just be doing that by eye, you won't really be counting. Then I'm going to chain 2, and then into the single I'm going to do 1 double, which is a UK treble, chain 1, another double or UK treble, chain 1, and another double or UK treble. So we end up with this 3 double crochets, each separated by a chain 1. Then we're going to do another chain 2, and we're going to mirror what we did on this side. So we are going into the third stitch here. So again, you can, from this side, because you already know this is your single here that you've worked into, you can go 1, 2, 3. That is your third stitch there. Then you're going to chain 2, and then you're going to make another corner, which is single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet back into that chain 3 space of the petal. It should look like this. Then we're just going to carry on that same sequence. Chain 2, find the middle stitch here, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, into this single we are going to put a double, a chain, a double, chain, a double, chain 2, into the third stitch, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and into the chain 3 space we're going to single, chain 3, single, which of course is a UK double. Okay, so I'm going to carry on now until I get back round to the other side, and I'll meet you there in a minute. So I'm coming up to this last section on this last petal, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to put a single crochet, which is a UK double, chain 2, and then nice and easy I am just going to join with a slip stitch into this very first single crochet that I did. So I'm just going to sew in some ends. I've actually sewed quite a few of these in already. This mohair bit, I think I'm going to sew into this double crochet cluster. I'm just going to sew it in double strand, so needle with a nice big eye, catch a bit and go back through there. Luckily mohair is quite sticky, so that's probably, once it's sewn in, it's unlikely to go anywhere. This one here, I think I'm going to split that first strand and just go into that corner. I've already crocheted over the top of the tail as I started, so I've already partly woven that in, and that is nice and tight in there, that's for sure. I don't think that's going to be going anywhere. Oh, okay, done. Trim that. This last end here, I kind of like to leave the last ends until I've joined everything together, because then I've got a couple more options about where I can sew that in. So for the minute I'm actually just going to leave that one exactly where it is. So there we are. Here's your finished motif. Hopefully by this point I thought of a name that I can put up on the screen.